Hey everybody, Greg Rice here in the bucket, Pawtucket, ringless today, Rhode Island. And reserves, do you need them? How much do you need when you start buying rental properties? I hate reserves, schmerves. Hate them. I even hate the word. Back in the day when I first got going, I used to need like 3 to 6 months reserves for all of my properties. And pity is what it's called, and pity full is what it is. Principal, interest, taxes, insurance, pity. The bank would say, all right, Mr. Rice, you need to have 3 months of pity, when I really had a lifetime of pity for them, for all of the properties that I own. So if I own 5 houses, the mortgages all in were maybe $1,500. I needed 3 months, $4,500 times 5 properties. So I needed $20,000, $25,000 in an account, just sitting there in my checking account, so that the bank was like, oh my God, if the shit hits the fan, Greg can pay all of his mortgages. And the truth is, if the shit hit the fan, I'm taking the money, right? It's in my account. So why are we talking about reserves? But anyway, that used to be the scenario for me. And as much as 8 months one time I needed for all of my properties, thanks to Movement Mortgage. 8 months of reserves for, I think I had maybe 15 houses at that time. And I was like, dude, I can just take this money, there's a lot of money, and buy the property cash instead of keeping it as reserves for you guys. Like, what are we doing here? So they still wanted it, and obviously I didn't want to buy it cash, so there you go, I have the reserves. But the bottom line is, it's a formality. It's not so much required in the investment arena. Once you start to acquire multiple properties, they look at your cash flow, they look at your tax returns, and more specifically, they look exactly at the property that you're buying. And at this point, owning close to 30 properties, if I had to provide reserves, it would just be stupid numbers and a waste of time. So I haven't been asked about reserves in quite some time. That might change though if you ever wanted to buy a primary residence and you own some of your rentals in your personal name. Then it's all mixed together and the bank could say, we need reserves, which I think is a valid point. But I'm just talking about investment purchases specifically. You may need them in the beginning stages just because the bank doesn't really know who you are. They're feeling you out. You may run into some maintenance issues, etc. But once you get over that hump, they shouldn't ask you about that anymore. They stopped asking me about it years ago. And frankly, it could put the nail in the coffin, right? A lot of investors are given all that they have to get to the closing table, and they don't have extra. But you can use a 401k, you could use a retirement account, you can use a brokerage account, things like this. You can just show the bank like, hey, I have this. They're not going to make you take it out, but you have it available to liquefy if you need to. That's really the point of the reserve. So all kidding aside, yes, I hate them. I think they're terrible, but it's necessary, and it just gives the bank that extra level of comfort for folks that are just getting into the game and making their way up the ladder. So you may want to consider that. If you don't have any reserves in general, maybe start throwing in a 401k, okay, something that's off to the side that you forget about, that you're not touching, that can grow 20, 30, 40, 50k over a year or two, and then, oh, boom, yeah, I do have reserves right here. I forgot about this. Schwab account. Schwab. Okay, so once again, Greg Rice here in the bucket, talking reserves. Your property managed.